So we have in the garage, we have this nice Little Wonder professional edger with this little Honda motor on it, and it's pretty cooled up, really dirty. It's Little Wonder it's still working. Yeah. So we're gonna clean this thing up. My buddy and I, this is actually his customer. Those of you guys that might know, Juan's my friend, and he's also my scrap guy. And so he brought me some really cool stuff. This little teaser, right? I'm gonna have another little project, kind of like my little table that I made a couple years ago. Yep, just like that. And so we're gonna get to this. First things first. Super Clean. We're gonna give it a shot with Super Clean. We're gonna get this thing hosed out. This thing literally lives 2 feet above the ground in the muck and the mire and the filth. Customer says, well, it runs for about 5 minutes, and then it goes, you know, whatever. How's that again, Arch? So she doesn't run well, and then I guess it shuts off. I just took a look inside the gas tank. It kind of looks like the outside. It's not that bad, but looks like there's some water and junk in there. Look, you wanted me because it doesn't even look like this thing's ever been serviced. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to make sure this thing runs well. Okay, let's get started. Okay, I see the throttle cable is stuck. I think it's on, right? So those of you guys might remember, and we'll get a closer look later, there's a fuel shut-off switch, and then there's a choke. And I kind of had to manually adjust it to full speed by moving the lever and the cable at the same time. So maybe we can address that. Let's just pull it. If it doesn't start, I think we'll take this cover off and we'll spray some starter fluid down it. It didn't even need to choke. Let's let it run. All right, that's what it's doing. Let's give it some choke. Yeah, it likes that. All right. See? Too much. All right, shut it off. All right, so now we know, right? So this is more fuel related. Let's get it cleaned up. I'm going to start off with just a regular spray because we want to get it wet down. Now, a lot of times what I'll do is I'll hose it first, right? And that gets rid of a lot of the junk that's just loose. So I think we'll start off with that. This way, this will have better use, right? Because this is still a water-based product, and you know you want to get it into the base metal, right? So if you got a lot of junk in its way, you're going to wind up having to do a double rinse anyway. So let's go get the hose and we'll get started. I was going to let it drip dry for a few minutes, you know, just so that the product isn't going to just rinse right off. Now, normally I'd use a pressure washer, but for small engines, though, that can be a problem. But this is not for sale. This is a customer's machine. And, you know, when I'm selling machines, sometimes I'll get a little bit more money, or sometimes it's not about getting more money. People that are buying a machine, they can be uncomfortable with buying something. If it's theirs, they own it, all right? So, and a lot of times they don't want to pay to clean everything, and they don't care, they don't understand. You know, when you're trying to sell something for the first time, it's a little different. The pressure washer would make it really good, but belts, you're not careful with the pressure washer, you're gonna have a problem. You'll ruin the belts, and these belts aren't all that great, but there's 2 of them, and there's more life left in them, and he needs it. And if we make a customer out of them, you know, because it's spring and this is the time for all of this stuff, make a customer out of them. come back to the belts. It's been sitting for quite some time while I've been doing other things. Check it out, guys. It looks good, right? We're done, right? All it needed was to be super clean. Anyway, again, shout out to those that company, and it just, working with them is a wonderful thing, because I use so much of that product. Jessica over there, I want to say thank you to her for setting this up in this channel. Now, just let's review real quick so we can see from the brief test that after a period of time, it does exactly what the customer is complaining about. But this thing reacted to the choke, so we're going to suck the fuel out and we're going to take this carburetor off. And we also want to take the cover off of the pull start and see if we can get this whole thing out. We might want to run it back outside and just give it a good rinse. It's probably going to be dirty underneath there. So let's dig in, all right? Let's just start. We'll get our 10mm wrench and socket, and we'll start pulling this thing apart. All right, this is a Honda GX-120. That's 118 centimeters. I don't know what that 3 is. Does that mean centimeters to the third power? All right, first wing nut takes the plastic cover off. Second wing nut takes the filter off. And then we're going to get 10mm on that, all right? But I also want to suck the gas out. So let me go and get my suction device, which sucks, and we'll start sucking that fuel out. The air filter looks pretty good. Of all the things, yeah, that's in good shape. We could just blow that. That's in excellent shape, right? Considering how dirty the rest of it was. Still some dirt in here, but nothing got down into the carburetor, so we don't have dirt going this way. And we can also adjust this cable later, and we can get it lubricated. So we've got a bunch of stuff to do. Let's get started on that. We'll get the suction machine. So that was what was on the bottom. I caught a lot of the debris, but whatever it is, we got to get it out. We got to make sure that tank is clean. And so it's got new fuel in it. That's pretty clean. This is what fuel looks like when it starts to get kind of beat. Also, sometimes my fuel looks like that because I treat it. See the differences? But if you're treating it with any oils and maybe, some of the stable, it might look a little bit more yellowy amber than the yellow, right? That's more of a yellow clear. All right, so you just gotta disconnect this hose, which is just a vent hose. Positive crankcase ventilation, or PCV, right? Crankcase. And not too bad, right? We got in there pretty good. It's a little dirty. The only thing we gotta get off next is the fuel line here. But I think before we do that, I'd like to take the plug out, and I'd like to take this whole cover off, right? If we can do that as well, because it might be pretty dirty, and then we'll see about taking the tank off, because there's still a lot of sand in there. I can see it. You got to get it out. So this is pretty easy too. We'll start off by taking the pull start, and we can lubricate the spring and the pulls later. I'm going to use my release agent, which I like to use. This is a mixture of some gas and tranny fluid. Mostly gas, about halfway, about half tranny fluid. But it's going to be hard to kind of get it in there. And that's the one thing about the Honda, is that they have these crazy little clips that can be troublesome in tight spots, right? In a good spot, it's always easy, but I usually just kind of grab it and then twist it, see? And do that, and now we got to kind of pry up a little bit. You need to turn it, so if you can turn it, you can break the seal, and that's why getting a bit of penetrant or something up underneath, and this one's going to be a little bit harder, you don't want to damage it, so if you could just kind of poke at it, okay? And then you can get some spray lube. Just be gentle with it, because they'll survive being, you know, played with and removed if you're gentle. And we'll try turning it now. Now you will survive that, but if you're too rough with it, you know, you'll break it. And it's starting to go. There's not a lot of room to work, but we have to get this guy off first. Let's see. Maybe you can just push up on it. Yep, there it goes. See? Like I say, if you're just gentle with it, now we can get this off. So I removed all that. You see it's pretty nasty. And what we'll do is after we get the carburetor off, we'll see if we can get the gas tank off, and then we'll run it back outside. Now all the bolts are out, so it should, if we pull this out of the way like that, this cover should come off. Okay? And it's just a switch that's holding it on, so be gentle. See how bad it is in there? That's nasty. So that's pretty bad. All right, this is all jammed up with filth and grease. So we want to get that out too. So again, a little bit more super clean. But like I said, let's get the carburetor off. Now it should just come to us. So here's your, it's like a little adapter, not really an adapter plate, it's like a spacer plate. And we're going to pull it towards us carefully. Now sometimes you can take these studs off and it makes it a little bit easier, because we have the throttle linkages to deal with. So now we get that spring out of the way, and then we should be able to just do that. And up, we're hitting the wheel. Okay, so we got to take that wheel off. It won't go. It's going to hit the other bolt too. So we'll just pop this wheel off. And we'll pop the wheel back on again, so we can roll it outside. Needs a little lubricant too. We can even turn it around the other way so that we'll clean it. That looks a little bit nicer. Oh, we got a gasket rip. That's understandable, so we need a gasket. Right, and then that way later on, we'll take this apart and we'll clean it. And so what I'm going to do now is look to take off this gas tank. But while we're here, there's all kinds of dirt all up and around this heat trace here. And I'll get you in close and I'll show you that, but there's dirt in there. You see the dirt in this little heat trace? Yeah, that's bad. That's it's a heat separator plate. It helps, it allows you to get the carburetor hot without getting it too hot, which would cause vapor lock. Well, I don't want water going into the engine, at least not a lot, so I'll just grab one of my I have a cap drawer, and we'll see what cap we can just shove. We'll put that, and we'll put the plug back in just loosely. So I'm going to find out. Let me show you the plug. And of course, it's been running like crap, so plug needs to be clean. All right, I'm going to work on that, and I'll show you what I want to do with the tank. All right, just a couple of bolts. So I got two here on studs, and it looks like one bolt back here. Yeah, maybe two. No, maybe one. All right, let me work on this. Just got to move that out of my way. 10 millimeter. Most stuff on these machines is 10. And that way I can take this outside and we can wash this tank out with the hose. The hose. And let me put the plug in because I don't want stuff falling in. Lift it up, slide it over, and that's it. Now we can, yeah, there's a lot of debris in there. I don't think you can see it, but I see it right there. And it, you know, when we get it done right away, then I'll put a little bit of gasoline in it, put the cap on, plug this end up, shake it around, spill that out, and then that'll get some of the water out, blow it with my compressed air, and then we'll leave it out in the sun since it's a nice sunny day. And you can see all the junk that's been building up. And here's the pull starter. So we'll get all this stuff washed up now. It's just perfect timing. That's bad. This could have used a pressure wash. That is bad. That's caked on. I'm gonna need a scraper for that. Let me get a scraper. We'll get that off. This is one of those things when you gotta scrape, you gotta scrape. Pressure washer would have done it, but then you could damage things. Yeah, looks real good in here. So we're gonna put this back. This is clean. We know the magnet works. It looks adjusted. I don't see any issues. However, we do see. Maybe I'm gonna bring in. What's that oil? I think oil is coming out, right? Because we keep. Yeah, it's coming out. Got in. It's getting in through. By turning this thing around, it wound up inside the engine. We have to get that out. So we got to spin it over a bunch of times, and I have to stop this business of tossing this thing around because we just flooded the entire combustion chamber with oil. But what I am going to show you is we need to adjust the magneto, and it might even be loose. Yep, hold on, I got a lot of oil in there. I may have to spin it and shoot it out. Yeah, I think I might have to because there's too much. Let me deal with the oil issue first so that I can move forward and I'll show you what I'm talking about. All right, I guess this way I can splash some of this out. Yeah. It looks like it's clean oil too. Somebody changed the oil recently. That'd be my guess. I mean, we'll get a better look at it, but from what I see peeing out, right, it looks pretty good. Yeah, I gotta get in there some more. I don't want to leave too much behind because it's just gonna burn and smoke forever. It's gonna smoke anyway. Almost done. You should be able to see it. Let me get a little light on that. See it? What do you see? What I see is that the gap here is much larger than the gap there. So we need to loosen that up, if it's not already loose, and lay our 10 thousandths in there and gap that up properly. All right, let's just see if it's even tight. It's tight, but it's not adjusted right. So let's loosen it. Let me get a little extension. So let's put this here. Let's straddle. Another reason why it's nice to have the plug out and everything. I think what we'll do, we want to check over everything. All right, so we have our gauge in there, and let me show you. Of course, this is one of those situations where the camera should be is also the same place where I have to be, right? Even an overhead shot wouldn't really do such a good job. Oh man, that's like too tight. All right, let's let it, yeah, that one fell in a little bit. All right, good, so that's in. Just give it a push. And let's retighten it. Fortunately, it's not loose. Okay. There we go. Get it nice and tight so it doesn't move on us. That should be good. Now let me get my tool back. All right, before we do the carburetor, everything's looking real good. I just stopped this up. There's a filter in here and you can take that out and blow it, but because of what we're doing, it looks real clean. Just to make sure there's no water in there, I blew it out good with hot compressed air. I'm just going to put just a little bit. That should be more than enough. And always clean your caps too, because the dirt will pile up in here and then you'll just be putting it back. So this will chase out any little bit of water that's in there. All right, I'm going to go take it over to the door And we want to make sure it's all dry. Blow it out the rest of the way. See? Yeah, that's capturing a lot of that water. It's not nice out. Now it's starting to rain, or it started to drizzle as soon as we got done. So, a bit of water, it captured it. All right, good. Now I'm just gonna give it a quick rinse. All right, so remember where that went. That went over here. All right, goes in there. We'll give it a quick rinse before we open it up. So we'll use some of that gas that we just spilled out. And I'll be back in a minute. I'm just gonna brush this all off so we don't want anything falling back in. And then we'll open it up. We just want to remember too where this went. Right, I don't even know if that's in the right spot, but we're gonna put it back. We'll figure it out then. I'm gonna blow this off with low pressure air when I'm done. Let's take a peek inside. Now we have, this is a filter. It's another filter. Let's see, a lot of times you can't get these off. Let me see. They can be troublesome. You don't want to break it. Yeah, we're going. A lot of times they're plastic too, but this is a nice one. See? And it just, yeah, there's sediment down in there. Quite a bit actually. So we'll get that out. That's your sediment bowl. That's a nice thing to have. Now, when we're looking at the carburetor, this is the front. Okay, and so we have this towards that sediment bowl, just slightly. Just loosen it up. Here we go. Not bad. One of the ways you know is if you can't get that off, you're in big trouble. It's probably just a little bit of sediment, but you know, we've been moving this thing around so much. But it's not rusted or anything. Just a little bit of debris up here. We'll hit that with our wire brush. This all looks good. So I suspect all we really need to do is just get these jets cleaned up, this jet. We want to get in there. Let's see, what do I have that I want to use? I've modified this nice long Craftsman, and you get good torque with a long screwdriver. That's why you want long screwdrivers for certain things. Oh, let's see if we can just take this off, because we may use it to make another gasket. Let me see. I do keep some in stock, especially for Honda, but just in case. It's just, and we want to get this off of here anyway, because there's going to be dirt, or there could be dirt behind here. We don't want to, hey? There was some dirt down there. So we want that off anyway. Now, carefully, it's coming. I modified the screwdriver a little bit so that it doesn't damage the threads. Okay, now a lot of times they won't come out, right? So what you want to do, let me get a pick. So we just want to take our pick and just grab the threads a little bit while we turn the jet out. It's a bit of a pain in the neck, but that's how it's done. Just pushing it out. May have to reposition the pick slightly. Yeah. Hey, there it is. Now we should be able to grab it. Hey. And this probably looks like a little bit of debris there. Yeah, it's right there. Yep. Okay. All right, now it's pretty straightforward. Just to make sure there's nothing plugged in there. So that's a part of the orifice tube. Now sometimes you can get them out, but sometimes they don't like to come out. Yeah, this one doesn't want to go. Well, we should be able just to clean it. And she looks real good. I like to take an acid brush and just trim it down so it's a little bit more hardy. Hardy? This thing's in good shape. Let's get whatever we can just to loosen it mechanically. That should be good. Yeah, there's some junk built up in there. All right, let's turn this on. If it's really bad, you'll have to take that apart, but we shouldn't have to do that. This will get any sand and junk out of the way. This is clean, so. I'm going to blow it. I use low pressure air, so roughly 30 pounds, 15 pounds. Yeah, that got all of the junk out. Now blow away from the table so you don't blow away your stuff that you got out on the table. That looks good. Let's hit it one more time. And blow it. Now we can turn our attention to this here because there'll be issues in this little jet. So what we want to do now is we want to turn in the adjustment screw to find out how many turns we have, so we can put it back. You have to take this adjustment screw. This is your idle adjuster. So we want to be that's 1, 2, 3. So about 3 3/4. So now remove it. And now we can get to this thing. And that's just a little jet, very small. It's hiding underneath here because that adjustment screw keeps it in. Just gently lift it up. If it's giving you a hard time, you can put something on there to lubricate it. All right, now it should be able to lift it up. You're a little stuck, huh? Not usually that stuck. Just be careful because it is plastic. Yeah, there's some dirt around that too. Dirt's laying in there. Now there's a very, very small orifice there. So we're going to clean that. There's also, we want to get that out of the way. So we're going to take our little brush. We don't want it to go in. So we're going to try to brush away. That's good. Let me blow it. Let's clear it. Now, on some of the older machines and the better machines, there's an idle adjustment screw here, and you shouldn't have to take that out or mess with it. This carburetor is not that bad. It's almost impossible ever to get to. It's preset. So I would recommend leaving it. Now, we need a very fine wire, and a lot of Tecumsehs have something very similar. And yeah, there's some junk in there, I think. Well, usually I can get, this is a needle from a Tecumseh carb, and usually the wire will go through it. But it feels like it either is smaller than that, which is rare, or it's not drilled. Yeah, it's not able to go through. Maybe it's not drilled. It's plastic. And they used to put a little brass insert in. I'm not going to force it. I can't see it because it's just, let me see if I have any light that I can put. I don't think it's drilled there. Yeah, it doesn't look like it. It may not be. It may not be because there is an adjustment screw, but that's clean. So we're okay there. Now we've got this guy. 30 thousandths of an inch is about as big as I could ever imagine it to be. So this is less than that on this kit. Because here at sea level, right, I'm just a few feet above sea level. And that's actually having a bit of a problem go through. It is a smaller engine. So a lot of times what'll happen is junk will get in there and clog it up. It could even just be, it's so small sometimes, it could even just be oxidation that'll do it. Let's get our kit, drill kit, and we're gonna drill that. And then we got this guy, so that's what this is perfect for. Yeah, that's clean. Get this sediment out of the sediment bowl. And this is your gasket ring. A little Scotch-Brite. That's ready for assembly. Yeah, that's good. Blow it out. All right, that's done. And we got this guy. All right, that's pretty clean, but we're just gonna deal with the gasket surface. So I'm just gonna lay it down and just brush it with my wire brush. Just to get off any, you know, it's a little bit of rust, it's a little bit of oxidation on here. A little slippery, my hands are getting greasy. Greasy! Now generally you don't have to do this, but you could take a little pin and just make sure it's clean. This is 0.225 and that fits. I'd like to go up to, 0.225. So I'm going to go up to 24 thousandths, and that'll eliminate any oxidation damage to the jet. And here at sea level, again, you're better off being a little bit bigger. And when the machines get older, they're a little out of tolerance, so it doesn't hurt to give it a little bit more fuel. Okay. That's good. I could feel that it was dry in there, like it's probably oxidation. All right, that's done. I'll just rinse that and blow it. Just make sure there's nothing in the entrance or the exit part of the jet. And you could do that with just one of these. Bigger ones. That's good. Let me put this away. Now we're going to put it back together. And we have a few other things to do. All right, now we can start assembling. All right, so we'll put a little bit of, this is my, you can use two-stroke or any kind of penetrant WD-40, but this is a little bit of gas with transmission fluid in it. And this, the only thing that dictates how this goes is there's a flat on either side, and then there is a flat right here. Okay, so we'll just put that right in. Make sure it goes down all the way. Link snapped in. And now we're going to turn this thing in and back it out 4 turns. So that's your throttle adjustment. Don't cross thread it, it's plastic, so let it go in. You'll see it'll be pushing on the throttle, opening it up, so the minimum stop will be 4 turns. So it's like 3 3/4. So, well, actually, we'll do like 3 1/2. That'll raise the minimum idle up a little bit. There it goes. So we'll go 1, 2, 3. Okay, and that'll just raise the minimum throttle up a little bit, which is fine. Again, it's getting a little out of calibration, so that's kind of what we want. Now let's sweeten up that seal, and with that little bit of lubricant too, it'll help. That's good. All right, put a little bit in there too. Like I said, sometimes you got to take this apart because the junk will go in there. Now we should be able to sweeten that seal up. This is the bowl seal. Let's get our jet in. So we've just done a little bit of modification. You don't have to do that, but oh, it's backwards. I do it because I've been doing this a long time, and I know what happens to these machines, especially here on the island, right? So I can't speak for you, because depending on what elevation you're at, it's a different ball game. So we're not going to wrench this down. We're just going to lightly seat it. Okay, good. Now, it all looks good. There's no junk on it. What's the matter? Okay. This went this way. Let's see, from the front, went about there, but we can always readjust. Let's put a little bit on that gasket. Now I gotta go find it a gasket, and then we can mount it, and we want to check it. All right, let's get it tight. 10 millimeter. Don't over wrench that either. That's good. This will probably be the last time that it gets any lubrication. Make sure nothing's stuck. Okay. Now, okay, let's open it. Okay. Now turn it upside down. Oh, hold on. See, it closes off. All right, so the float is working. Needle and seat. All right, now before we put it on, we're ready to put it on, but we got to go put the cover back. Go inspect over there. Trying to get this last bolt off. There we go. Let's take a peek. Let's see if it's stuck on. No, it's not. That's good. It's not bad. Now we gotta get this thing up to top dead center, which is gonna be really easy because we got the plug out and we got the cover off. All right, so now we can watch the magnet come around, and when the magnet's straddling the magneto and the valve events are in the right place, right, that'll be top dead center. So let's just start spinning. Oh, there's an exhaust, right? There's your exhaust here. That guy closer to the exhaust. So it must have just fired. All right, here comes an intake. It's gonna suck some fuel in. We're getting ready to close, and then there's a little bump there on the exhaust, right? That could be a compression brake. And where magnet's coming up, all right, right here. Right here it is, a magnet straddling the magneto coil, and that'll be TDC. So it's always really easy. Now, there's a arrow, which I'll show you in a little bit. There's an arrow actually on the pull starter, and generally, that arrow has to be up at the top, and I'll show you guys that in a minute. What you're looking for is a little mark. It's a chevron, like a rectangle right there. That's how you know you're a TDC, and it should kind of align with this one of the holes up here, like at 12 o'clock. So let's take a 4,000th in here. I believe it should be 0.1. 0.12 millimeters, but I don't have that, but I have a 4,000 here, which is 0.102 millimeters. So that should be fine, right? We got to get that in there. What we really need is one of these angled ones. Well, let's just see. We should be able to get this in because it's tight, right? Let me see if I have an angled one, because this is hard to get in, right? These motors are a little different than what you would find, guys, on like lawnmowers. This is a smaller guy. Okay, we can get that in there, kind of. Yeah, it feels about right. Yeah, it feels right. You can tell because it'll pull on it. Yeah, that's good. And then we'll go with the 5,000s, which is exhaust. And generally exhaust is a little bit bigger because of the heat, right? This movement. See, maybe I can come from this way and I'll show you in a minute. Yeah. Yeah, let me show you. Let me get out of the way. Yeah, that's good. That's excellent. All right, so we don't need to do anything there. It feels a little bit loose. Tell you what we can do, just so for you guys, we'll tighten it just a scotch. So let's see what sizes we have. Usually it's like 14 millimeter, and this might be a 10. Yeah, that's a 10. Let's check a 14. It's either 14 or 13. Let's see. Yeah, that looks like 14. I know this confuses a lot of people. Not every motor is the same, okay? There's a lot of differences between motors. So the centerpiece here, right there, let me get a little screwdriver and I'll show you. That's the stud. That's actually what's going into the block of the engine or the head, right? And this 10 millimeter nut, right, is your jam nut. It's your lock nut. And this 14 millimeter nut is actually part of this whole body. And that's essentially what's driving on the trunnion for the pivot point for the actual rocker. So that's where you adjust. So what we'll do is, first we have to loosen up the jam nut a little bit. And it's actually turning, because it's so well jammed, it's actually turning the adjuster nut, or adjuster piece. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to tighten that up a little bit. And tightening is, in this case, is on the bigger one, is actually clockwise. And let's feel it. Now when you put the jam nut on, these are fine threads, but it will change the measurement slightly. Sorry, I'm going to be in your way a little bit. It's such a tight deal. Yeah, that come in a little bit more. That's still a little loose. Okay. That's better. Yeah, the exhaust needed a little bit of help. I'm just going to go a little bit more. Go a little bit more, because it's going to change a little bit when we get that lock nut down on it. Right, that's a little too tight. It's not bad. Let's see, now leave that in there. And now we're going to hold that adjuster nut solid. And then we're going to tighten down on the nut above it. So however you got to hold it. Hold on, does this fit better? Whatever fits better. That fits a little bit better. And then this guy here. All right. Now you can see it's trying to turn it. So we're going to hold it back and then tighten down our jam nut or lock nut. There's a lot of stuff in the way here, so that's good and tight. Okay. Now let's just see. Yeah, that feels good. See, it actually loosened it up a little bit. Right? That's good. Right, and we'll take our 5,000, so we'll shove it into here too and just see how that fits as well while we're here. And she doesn't fit as good because this should be about 4,000s. She's a little tight. Yeah, see, she's tight. That's fine. Let's just check the jam nut on the intake. Yep, they're good. We're done. Let's close it up. So that's an adjustment on one of these smaller Honda engines, the GX-120. Just clean this off. Let's make sure that the valve cover is clean, and we'll put this back together and we can start assembling things. I like to use 1/4-inch drive with a stubby. Right, to put a lot of these bolts on, because remember, this is a little engine, right? And especially with a valve cover, you don't want to over tighten it. So a lot of this stuff is stubby, 1/4-inch drive, right? I think we're pretty good in here. Remember now, the tank goes on after. We'll get this on next. Everything else is good. Everything else checks out. Those are important points because we want a good ignition system, good reliable spark. We want to make sure the valves probably were never done. So that's like 100 hours they want you to check them. And carburetor's clean. So I'll get this, like I said, we'll get this guy on, the fuel tank, and the hose is gonna, the hose like kind of like goes in here in this little pocket there, little keeper. So we'll do it in that order, and then we'll be real close to just test firing this thing. We just have a little bit of adjustments to do. Let me get this on next. All we need to do, all right, is to slide this back on. Oh, we got to take the tire off like we did before, remember? And we can put a little lubricant on that. Just need to slide it back in, guys. Now, you got to align that, the throttle. See? And it just drops right in. And once it goes into position, that's it, all right? It's going to hold itself in. And then we need to put this guy back. Into the hole you go. And then this is in there. Now we're just going to leave it for now because we've got to get the gas tank on. So here's our gas tank. So I just put a little bit of no-sees on those because they are getting a little nasty. And we'll drop this tank in like that. Now we got to fish this underneath, right? That's what I was saying earlier. I have to get that hose where we want it, and then we got to get the studs in. Okay. Now we can put a little bit of our lubricant on here. And without the carb adapter here, air filter adapter on, we can get at this a little bit easier because we can slide things around a little bit, move around a little, shove that hose down, and then we should be able to take our clip and move it where we need to put it, and that's it, we're done. Okay, so that part's done. Now I got to get the bolts on and the nuts. So put a little oil on this. That's this guy. It was a long one. Goes all the way through and into the tank up here. Let's get that lined up and started. So I'm going to put that back on. I'll be back in a minute, and we want to do a little service on our pull start. Almost forgot, right? We've got to put this on now. Look at the carburetor. And you see that no matter which way you put this, right, you know, it only goes one way. You think, well, there's a hole there, right? Well, no, because the hole is up here, but it wants to bring air in from here, loop it around, just like that, right? So that means we want to put this on like this. That'd be my guess. Okay. Now, yeah, I made the gasket a little bit big, but it's correct where it counts. I finally traced out the old gasket. They won't go on any other way. Right, so we're going to go on like that. Okay, I'm getting tired. And we'll put this guy back on, and we can close all this up here. Let's move you out of the way. Let's pop the throttle rod, and they made it very easy to deal with the throttle rod. Right, we'll put our fuel hose back. Okay, just usually give that little clip a twist. It can be a bit of a pain in the neck, I know. You get used to it after a while, and you know, it's easy. All right, so feel that, make sure that's moving correct. Feels good. All right, if you want, put a little lubricant on the threads, a little oil or something. Transmission fluid should be fine. All right, then we have, this is kind of like an adapter gasket. A little dirty. And just wipe it off. We gotta do the oil change too. And we gotta clean the plug. Now, which way does this go? So let's take a look at this. We'll only go one way, see? I have the lighting turned up bright, so it might be a little glary, but I'll try to adjust that. All right, we all look good here, so we wanna get that in. So there's already some lubricant on it. So kind of shove this back. These guys need to, that needs to come forward. It needs to come forward. So you kind of have to put like everything on at once. You get the hose back there. That's good. Tighten that up. We got a bolt up top. Get this top bolt in, get it lined up first. And then we still have to make other adjustments, so after I put this on, I think I'm gonna stop. Get a little late, I'm tired, and I'm gonna wanna go over the adjustments to the cables. You know, so we're doing a full service here, so there's no one part. Oh, it's raining good, we got a thunderstorm. All right, I'm gonna tighten that up, and then we'll be back for the final. All right, carburetor's on. Before I do the plug, we're gonna take a look at this throttle cable assembly. And what I wanna do is I wanna take this off because I don't think it's on right. We also wanna lubricate the cable. Look, it's just jammed. So I wanna take a look in here, get this cable off first, and then move this assembly and make sure that it's moving well, and then we'll address the cable. These are nice steel cables. So some of the things that I like to do just to get things moving is I've got oil in here, oil on that, also working with this 6-in-1, trying to shoot it down there as much as I can, and then chase it with some regular oil, and then move it. I put oil up in the shaft area too. You need oil to start off with. You need to get some oil down into that. Here's some of my transmission fluid mix. A combination of, like, because like some things are not lubricants, they're penetrants, they're like penetrant lubricants. See, that's moving much better. So they're not really oils, like, and oil is an important thing. We got this guy here. This feels like it's stuck. All right, that's your, we'll oil that too. That's to disengage the clutch. And then over on this end, what I've been doing, same thing, right? It was bent too. It was very bent because it got stuck. So same thing, extend it all the way. I'm gonna work some more of my transmission stuff in there because it's thin, it'll go in. And then I chase it with some oil. And I've also been using the 6-in-1. And then, yeah, I think that's gonna do it. Now, to finish up, we wipe it down. We'll put some white lube on. It's about as much as I can do with these lubes. And here's a bare spot too, which you can use that to your advantage. If you want to take back a little bit of the sheath, outer sheath, right, you could lube there as well. It'll go in because it's like a coiled outer sheath. Those are really good. When they're bare, you can lube the entire length of the cable. Light lube coming up, and it'll pull it in. Get what you can on it. I'm going to just work it in and we'll reattach it. Everything is fine here. It feels okay. I'll put a little bit of chain wax. I'm going to put some chain wax up underneath this. I put a little 6-in-1 to start off with. Yeah, that's moving good now. These are the best cables. Yeah, that's great. And we'll do the same thing on this end. Pull some white grease into that. And that should work. All right, let me put it back together. Working good. Feels like it's backwards, but probably not. All right, now, let's get the pull starter on. So we've cleaned it, it looks good. So I'm just gonna put a little bit of chain wax on these poles. And then up in the spring pocket, which is here on this one. Yeah, try to get it in there. And then pull it through. Oh, it's still grovelly. You might want to put a little bit more lubricant in there. Probably even a little bit of oil. It's grovelly. Yeah, it's all the filth that's been in it for so long. Let's see. And we'll pull it through. That's better. But still, yeah, now it's starting to, I can feel it. Yeah, that's better. All right, let me wipe it out and we'll mount it. All right, clean the plug up good. It's nice. I got to about 28, 29, right? It'll open up, and I buttered it up with some no-sees. I also checked the oil, and it is way over full. It's all nice and clean, but it's way overfill. My guess is somebody probably did this, right? Laid it on its back, and like poured oil right into the, because there's two spots you can check and add oil. Old school, just you gotta have to go by the number of threads, right? A couple of threads down from the top on a flat surface, nice and level. They didn't do that. So another thing I'm gonna do is here, take a little chain wax and throw that in there too. That'll protect it, keep it from oxidizing. Let me tighten up the plug, we'll put some fuel in it, we'll bring it out. This baby's gonna smoke. That's why it's dumping oil into the combustion chamber. It's getting around the vents and everything. So, you know, the PCV and all that, it's just getting all around that. Yeah, it's a mess. So let's figure this out. We're almost ready to test it. We'll be back in a minute for a nice test. Okay, switch is on, right? Yeah, switch is on. I don't know if the choke is on. The fuel should be on. Let's see, fuel is on now. This might be choke. I don't remember which way it goes. We got throttle about midway. Let's just pull it a few times. That might be the choke, or this might be the choke. It's hard to say. You can't really see the symbol, you know? Let's find out. We'll have to write it on there. Let's give it some helping hand. It's gonna smoke. Something happened. See all the oil? Is that choke? I'm not sure which is choke. Oh, good. Gotta clear all that shit. That's choke. Okay, that's choke. All right, let it run for a little bit. It's got to clear all that junk, and then we'll dump the oil. Well, what you saw was I was adding some choke, and it smoothed out. That's telling me it needs more fuel. We could drill that jet, but when I rev it up and down, I see a lot of puffs of smoke. And because there's so much oil in here, I think we need to, let's put the correct amount of oil, fresh oil in it. We'll run it again. Yeah, that's a lot. And you can see down to the bottom of the tray, look, it's clean oil. It's good oil. It's just, It's just too much. All right, let's get some good oil in that. So I got a little small container that I set aside, little, just a small container. This is like 20 ounces. I don't even fill it up all the way. I've got one of these tops on it, and you see where we got to go, right? So you have to squeeze it in there, and just above the bottom thread should do it, and the dipstick will show you too. So not all the way up to the top. A couple threads above that very bottom thread. Let me see if I can turn the light on. You see it? All right. All right, you see it? It's right there, right? You can see a little bit of the older oil mixing in there. It's right there, right at that bottom thread. And if we stick this dipstick in, just run that in and then take it out, and you'll see it'll be perfect. Close to perfect. It's not super critical, but yeah, this was, like I said, I think he tilted it on its back and poured it in. Yeah, she's perfect. See? She's actually about here. So that's perfect. That's about where we want it. Let's retest it. All right, watch. Choke. All right, let's see if this helped. So this is fuel on and that is choke off. Okay. And that's ignition on. And we'll give it a little bit of throttle. And let's see if it starts. We'll give it a little bit of choke. All right, so it's still happening, but we have to take the carburetor off to do it. But it really does need a little bit more of adjustment. Those are those jets, like I said earlier, when you're doing one of these, you're gonna run into that problem because things change. All right, so we could leave it like that, or we could go back in there and deal with it. And I think I'm inclined to actually fix it. If I was selling it, right, then I would definitely fix it, because somebody hears that and they're going to be like, well, what's wrong with it? So that's going to affect the price. I'll have to get a little bit more money out of this because it's just not quite running right. It's definitely not right. Let's take that carburetor back off. We'll have to clamp off the fuel line, and then we'll just go one size more. Okay, so put a little oil in here. We oiled all of these mechanisms here, the bearings on the wheels, the front. This main bearing assembly, shaft assembly, I put grease in that. Front wheels, all the rotational points. I took the jet out to 025. It's 25 thousandths. It's another 1,000 bigger. And the air cleaner, that's going to make a difference. Let's start it up. That's going to make a big difference. You'll see. All right, we're all set. I also put a little white marker on that over here. So choke would be on over this way. Fuel system's on that way. We have that all ready to go. We got the ignition on. We're about midway. All right, so let's just start it, and it should run fine. Let it warm up. Let's lift it up. That's better. I'd say leave it like that. One, I'm not going back in there again and doing another adjustment. But when I put the blade on, right, that's under load. It's very different. It behaves differently under load. And of course, that's where they're going to be using it. They're going to be, and it's just with it spinning, just the blade spinning causes it to run better. Don't forget, they're going to be having this thing buried into the ground. So I don't think that's going to be a problem. You don't want to make it too rich, because you notice when I rev it up, black smoke comes out. And that's where you'll get into that issue. We could open it up a little bit more, and that might help. But I think that you'd be causing more problems just to get it to idle and run smoother without a load. She runs fine with a load. So we'll call this one done. All right, everyone, we're going to call this one done. This is a nice, quick little job and a good cooperative between me and my buddy Juan. So if you're interested in, getting a machine like this, and I would recommend it. These little Honda motors are really nice. They make just a great little edgers. I think the frame and everything, the carriage that it's sitting on, that it's a little wonder, but it is a professional unit, and it definitely looks it. I would recommend something like this to somebody if they were looking for something and this came up for sale, used. I would definitely buy one. So we went over pretty much everything on this. I'm going to leave it the way it is with the carburetor. I might give it a recommendation to just replace the carburetor next time, although it is in pretty good shape. We don't want to drill anymore, guys, because then you're getting so far away from factory spec. I just, you could try it, but anyway, I will see you guys on the next one. Hopefully you enjoyed it and learned a little bit of something, and I really had a good time, and I like these little machines. I'll see you guys on the next one. Roger's Garage, like and subscribe. You ready?